We're talking Eufaula education. Today we're talking with Mitzi Clayton, and I tell you, you've got one heck of a job here at the school district. I know that you're a family person. I know that you work here on a part-time basis. Let's talk about what you do.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Cassidy, for what you and Eufaula TV have done for Eufaula City Schools. I've spent a lot of time with you this year. I'm usually on the other side of the camera listening to interviews, and I've even learned things about Eufaula City Schools doing that. But it has been great. I think it's been an excellent tool for parents as well as other people out in the community just to know what we do and who to call for questions. And it's been very helpful to us, and I think it's helped you with viewing. So we've have a good team effort there, and we appreciate that.
When you look at your typical day, I know that it starts early sometimes. We're sending text messages sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning because we're both early risers. But when you look at your job, exactly what is a typical day like?
Okay, typically I work in the mornings from 8 to 12, but that is, I say typical, but a lot of times this time of year especially it doesn't happen that way. But I do a lot of work via email because a lot of times I'm communicating with teachers that have classrooms full of students and they're not going to be able to take phone calls or be able to email me back right away, but I want to know some things that they're doing, things I can tell the community about, things I can tell parents about, and even the same way with principals and other administrators. They're busy, so email is a great tool for me to use when I don't have to know anything right away. But what I do is I work to tell people what we are doing in Eufaula City Schools. We have a lot of great things going on, and that is my main concern, is telling about all of that. But if something happens that people want to know about that may not even be so good, I'm still the spokesperson for that usually. I tell people about it. We want people to know everything. Everything's not perfect, but I do feel like that we have the best education in Eufaula and one of the best school systems in the state of Alabama. And so if you don't tell people about what you're doing, they don't know about it. And that is a lot of what I do. I'm the direct media and community contact here at Eufaula City Schools. I work very closely with our superintendent, Mr. Eddie Tyler, and other directors here at Central Office. So if there's a call from the Eufaula Tribune, they usually call me to find out who they need to contact. I'll set up an interview, do the same thing for you. Other media outlets, not just here in Eufaula, sometimes we'll call and do interviews, especially if we have some big items going on. For instance, last Friday, Sarah Finn, a teacher at Admiral Moore Middle School, had applied for a $10,000 grant through Code, which came yesterday. The students had what they call an hour of code because students aren't learning about computer programming anymore. But because we did that, we get $10,000 worth of computers and accessories to get laptops for a student laptop lab. So that was really neat, and we had people come in for that, and I contacted a lot of people to come and kind of a little reception for that. I'm also in contact usually with our public officials on the state level and the city level. Another big area that we've revamped it, but I've always worked on it, is our system website. I handle mostly what goes on the website for the system. We do have sections where each department can upload information about each director about their department, but then we also have school websites that have school-specific information, and then in each school we have a person, or in a couple of schools 2 people, that handle that information, and I feed information to them to put out there. They're great help because it would be very hard to handle 5 websites plus our Facebook page, which, as you know, has become a great tool for communicating. I know that a lot of our parents are younger, especially with our primary school age, but Facebook has now become a tool for all ages. I have friends of all ages on Facebook, and Eufaula City Schools does as well, but it's a great reminder. This morning I'll come in and usually put a Facebook post, sometimes 1 or 2, sometimes not at all, depending on what's going on, but we have the high school has a music concert tonight, and the band director wanted me to remind everybody, so I posted a reminder about our band concert, and then a lot of people liked it, so it was on their page, and that just kind of, it's huge what it can do. few years ago we had a tax renewal that had to be voted on, and I really think Facebook helped that pass, because what I put on Facebook, then our teachers were copying and putting on their Facebook page, and it's a great reach. But that's something I handle from time to time. We do community tours, or even just a potential parent wants to tour a school, they'll call me. A lot of times I'll set that up and get them in touch with the right person for the tour, or I'll go take them on a tour. I handle our calendar in two different ways. We have what I call a system Google Calendar that is up to date. As soon as I get the information, we will put it out on the calendar, but it tells everything that's going on in the system. There's a link to it on our website. But then also our school day calendar is something I handle. Every year we have a committee that votes on the calendar, like when school starts, when school ends, and the holidays. And then that information is taken to the board. We're gearing up to do that right now. We have staff from each school, parents from each school, that the principal will give me some names, and I'm in the process of calling parents to make sure that they feel comfortable serving on that committee, and then they can go out and talk to other parents and come up with what we feel is a good calendar for everything, for when each 9 weeks needs to end, begin, have it balanced, but also have some holidays as well as when school starts. That's a process. It's not my calendar, it's the committees, it's the school systems. We have done surveys on SurveyMonkey for that, so I do things like that with the calendar.
When you look at the things that are covered here at the central office, I can remember when I first came to Eufaula that it was in a little small building, really cramped, up and now where the elementary school is. And then they moved over here several years ago. And I thought, what are they going to do with this building? And you have utilized this building very well. There is room for people to work. There's rooms for the meetings that you
Right.
need to host. The promotion of all these different events. People have no idea what planning has to go in, and that the school board even has to approve the school schedule for athletics.
Right.
They don't just develop it on their own and then it's there. So there's all of these different responsibilities. It's your job then to promote them.
Right.
Is this job anything like you thought it would be when you came here, or different?
It's similar to what I thought it would be. I had worked in corporate communications for a company in Columbus, Aflac. Most people know where that is, and it was certainly more fast-paced. There are days I have a list, and I come into the office and I get that list completed. In that world, I'd have a list and I might get 2 things done, and then a phone call would take me away. And I like that. I don't like doing the same thing over and over and over. I like a process, but I don't mind something jumping in. So it is a little different than I expected, as far as sometimes things that are urgent or that change that I didn't realize would make such an impact because of the things that, like you said, even sports schedules have to be voted on by the board, and there's a purpose for that. But you've got timing for all of that. I don't do this, but some of the other things I do in my job are the same way. A coach has to get that schedule to a principal, who's got to look at it and then get it over here in time to get in a board packet to get out to board members. And then after that board meeting, I get all of this information, so I spend a lot of time updating the calendar. But there are a lot of processes that people don't realize that are in place. Sometimes it almost seems like it's haphazard, but it's not. There's a date, there's a time, there's a place. But then, and when you're looking at what students do and how students learn, sometimes you have to change some of those things as you go along. For instance, with the calendar this year, Mr. Tyler has expressed a desire for us to plan 2 years. Not just this next school year, but the next school year after that, and go ahead and give that to the board and probably get an approval. But just say something in the next year happens that needs to change that, it can be changed, but then I guess I would say in a school situation, the planning happens, it's a lot more extensive than it was to me in the corporate world and what I did day to day. Not as a whole, but in the job I had in the corporate world.
Well, I know that Mr. Tyler deals with different levels of people working up to him.
Right.
Of all the people here, you deal with every level.
I do.
You really are in contact with everybody from Mr. Tyler all the way down. A lot of people on a daily basis.
Right.
Because you've got to get the information out.
Right.
And the parents need to know what information they need, and you have to figure out what that information is. Do you ever get suggestions from parents?
I get a lot of suggestions from parents as well as teachers and other staff members as well. Sometimes I just listen. Sometimes I find the right time to bring that up in a meeting if it's something that I've heard, or I'll write myself some notes. And sometimes I'll just drop an email to the person that I think could handle that if it's not something I could do. If a director or another principal or Mr. Tyler, yeah, I heard that, this might work. Somebody thought this would be a good idea. What are your thoughts? And then sometimes it'll come up at a staff meeting or later on, and sometimes those things are implemented. You'll hear sometimes parents and teachers say, well, nobody listens. But they do. Like, for instance, last year we did a survey. We had 2 calendars that we thought would work. When the committee met, they voted on them, and they were saying, we think either one of these would work, but we really want to know what the majority of people think. So I put both of them out on SurveyMonkey, and they said, right now what we think we need to do is whatever calendar wins, then you present that one to the board. And sure enough, it wasn't 80-20. I think it was more like 65, 70-30, something in there. But the one that won, that was the one I presented to the board, and that was the one that was implemented. So people do listen, and we certainly try to do what works for everyone as a whole. Of course, everybody has different needs. But there are a lot of suggestions I hear out and about. I can't really go to the grocery store without talking about Eufaula City Schools, which sometimes I enjoy and sometimes it's kind of hard. But that is sometimes where you hear a lot of good suggestions. The grocery store, the ball field, basketball arena, it's just there. But it's fun. I enjoy it. I think I've got a good product to sell, and I enjoy what I do, so I don't mind that.
One of the things that I've noticed about the entire system is that we have a school board that's very in tune with what's happening in this system.
I agree.
They're not just saying, well, so and so.
Right.
We'll leave it up to somebody else. They're actively involved. They have a great working relationship with Mr. Tyler.
Right.
And when you see that working relationship, and then that relationship works its way down, then it's your job to communicate what all these people decide is
Right.
going to be a schedule, is going to be an event schedule, whatever that's needed. And there's so many things happening in this system because we're
Right.
not a backward system.
Right.
We're a very aggressive system. And that makes your job more interesting and also more needed.
You're absolutely right there. We do have so many things happening, and I have to think about what's going on every day. I on my calendar, I wake up every morning and I look through to say, okay, do I need to be here? Do I need to tell somebody about this? And then I look a week ahead too to make sure, do I need to put a reminder on Facebook to tell parents? For instance, we had 2 parent workshops last night that were very important. Do I need to remind people that they need to come to this? Because people forget. There's so many things going on, not just school events, but things with for students, things with Parks and Rec, community events, and parents have so much information coming to them. And that's the other thing, is that people don't all want to get information the same way. So we try different ways to get it to parents, and you'll still have a parent go, I didn't know about that. And I thought, well, okay, give me your email address. How do you like to get it? We have what we call a call out system, where most of the time the principals will call out telling about events or upcoming testings. If it's a school closure, we try to just do it one time with one person doing it. But that's a quick way to get it, but still everybody doesn't communicate that way. So then you put something on Facebook, and then some people don't have Facebook pages, so then you put something on your website. And then in our elementary level, each week, at least each week, sometimes nightly, depending on the grade level, folders are sent home. Some people really like to have that piece of paper in their folder. But when you're talking about a high school student, the paper doesn't usually get home. So then we know we need to do the texts, the emails. The teachers have what's called Moodle pages, put information there. The middle school sends out a newsletter monthly, and I just help kind of coordinate all those things. But you have to remember, when you're doing this, that not everybody likes to get information the same way, so you have to do it multiple ways.
Well, I want to thank you for this, and I know we haven't covered all of what's
That's okay.
going on, and we didn't get into specific events, we got into generalities, and that's great. People need to know that they can contact you if they need information. Let's get to this point.
Okay.
Let's come down and begin to close this out. If you have something you'd like to add, bring it up at this time.
Okay. Well, there were a couple of things that as I was looking through some notes I'd written before our interview. One thing that we've started this school year that has been extremely helpful to me is working only 20 hours a week. It is hard for me to be at every event and impossible, really. We have what we call reporters in our schools. And they send me pictures. They take some pictures for me and they'll send information to me. So we're getting more information out to you and to the newspaper, and more pictures for our websites and Facebook page and all that. So it's those people in the schools have been extremely helpful. That was something Mr. Tyler mentioned to me. I'd thought of it before, but with having him backing me doing it, it's been great. And I want people to really know that I appreciate those people. I'm not going to name them by name, but they know who they are. And then secondly, I'm very proud of the corporate and community support that we have here in Eufaula. Just recently, and we have all companies really are supportive of us, like American Buildings, their HR person sends out emails from me to everybody in the company so that they know what's going on, and they're supportive when we have parent conference time. But Johnson Industries had what they call J.O. Day. And it's kind of I think a festive event for their employees, and they choose a group to give things to each year, and they chose us for school supplies. And they sent them to me, and then I sent them out to each of the schools based on their needs, and that's really helpful when people do that. Some people did that back in the fall with a big group of people from Mr. Pond did it, but other groups do it too, Christ Child Circle. We're just with supplies, but anything people do for the schools. Meet is always very helpful with the volunteer hours. That is great. And if people don't know who to contact to do things like that, I'm always willing to help them find out what they need to do. But we appreciate the community and corporate support.
Well, we've been talking Eufaula education, and our guest here today has been Mrs. Mitzi Clayton, and you're over public relations for the school and media. We appreciate your time and look forward to coming back.
Thank you.